Have you done any Zoom quizzes during lockdown? One of the popular picture rounds is Guess the Close-Up. Have you worked out what this one is yet? And how about this one? I think this is a little bit easier. And then this one. This is my favourite, so beautiful. One of the things we've had to hold on to during lockdown is perspective. There have been any number of crazy pandemic stories, and keeping hold of the truth has sometimes been a slippery thing. Also, with the enormity of all that has happened, we've needed to be able to step back and see the bigger picture. Our spiritual life needs perspective too, that same stepping back. And when we have God's perspective, even if we're not sure what's round the corner, we can confidently continue to put one foot in front of the other. It's like turning a light on in the darkness. Jesus often spoke in pictures to bring his perspective to our lives. A picture or image to help us understand a deeper truth. In John 15, the picture of the vine describes how Jesus is the vine and we're the branches, and that we're to remain connected to him to stay spiritually healthy and alive. Another detail of that picture is Jesus telling us that God is the gardener of these vines. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. Like gardeners all around the world, God tends to his plants to keep them strong. In his loving care, he watches over us, shaping our lives so that we stay healthy and fruitful. He wants our lives to look like Jesus, so he tends and encourages new and delicate shoots of faith. He cuts back what's dead to clear the way for healthy growth, and prunes our lives to encourage good fruit to grow in us. Have you ever thought about God working in your life in this way? Just as a farmer or gardener works with the seasons, God also works with the seasons of our life. We're familiar with the swing of the seasons here in the UK. Winter is a time for many plants to lay fallow, to renew their energy, maybe under a layer of snow. And then we feel the energy of the arrival of spring, and with the buds comes a freshness and a newness of life. Then comes summer, and a time for vigorous growth and lush greenery. And then autumn, with fruit ripening on branches, crops being harvested, and then the slow browning of the leaves as we move on again towards winter. As branches connected to the vine, our lives will cycle through these seasons. Spiritually, we will have times of growth, times of fruitfulness, and times of pruning. Look at these pictures. All of these branches are connected to the vine, but they're all in very different seasons. Which picture best describes the season that you currently find yourself in? Which picture best describes the current state of your soul and your relationship with God? It's important for us to know that there is no bad season. As we become aware of the spiritual rhythms of our life, we gain perspective on the bigger picture of what God is doing in us. These seasons aren't connected to our physical age or our spiritual maturity. We can be old in years and decrepit in body, but be experiencing a time of fruitfulness. Likewise, we can be in the prime of life, but have a sense of pruning and cutting back. Remember, none of these seasons is bad in itself. God is at work in each and every one of them. We can want to be in a place of perpetual growth or fruitfulness, but the Bible tells us that God purposefully prunes us so that we will be more fruitful. Did you know that a vine has 90% of the previous year's growth cut back to bring the next season's harvest? How has life been for you during lockdown? How has it affected your spiritual life with Jesus? Maybe you have experienced a time of loss and dislocation. Maybe your spiritual life feels cut back and spare. Or maybe lockdown has been a time for you of deep growth and fruitfulness. Look at these pictures again. Why are you drawn to a particular picture? What do you notice? How does it represent your current season? Talk to God about that now. During each season, being able to step back and get the wider perspective of what God is doing helps us in a number of ways. It enables us to cooperate with God. Remember, He is always for us. He intends the very best for us in every season. His plans always prosper. His garden thrives. And as we stay connected to Him, we thrive too. Spending time with God enables us to navigate each season. We can sometimes think nothing is happening because we don't always see action on the surface of our lives. But as each season passes, we have opportunity to push our roots down deeper into the vine, deeper into the love of God. We often imagine the path of life to be a straight one, from A to B, from birth to death. We start off as an acorn and become an oak. If you've lived some years, you'll soon realise that it isn't always like that. Life has a habit of taking us on detours. Roadblocks appear. Unexpected things full of joy or sadness take us by surprise. The road of life has twists and turns. As we learn to navigate these different seasons of life, the Bible tells us that Jesus is with us every step of the way. How are you navigating the season you're in right now? What's been a blessing? What's a challenge? What do you need from Jesus today? Why don't you talk with Him about that now? In Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, we find an echo of Jesus' teaching. It says, "There's a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance." And this passage ends powerfully with this: He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. Have you ever thought of eternity set in your heart? Once we have a relationship with God through Jesus, we are adopted into his family. We take on the family likeness, we grow in the character of Jesus, and we will be with him for all time. That means eternity, and our hearts are set on it. Our hearts look forward to that time when we will be with Jesus. It makes us long for more of him. It's like we already have a taste of heaven before knowing it fully. Whichever season we find ourselves in today, it's good to hold eternity in our hearts, to know that there are some things we may not fathom this side of meeting Jesus. This is the essence of hope, holding on to the truths and promises of God before we see them fully worked out. And our role? To continue to walk with him, to know that whatever the season we are in, he is with us every step of the way.